today, President Biden will meet Prime Minister Boris Johnson ahead of the start of the G7 summit tomorrow.
The pandemic, world vaccinations, crucially, the growing Brexit trade row and its effect on Northern Ireland peace is likely to dominate talks between the two. So we are joined now by the Trade Minister, Greg Hands. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Well, we have this story, an exclusive on the front of the Times, so we're reflecting this morning that President Biden ordered US officials to issue the Prime Minister with an extraordinary diplomatic rebuke for imperiling the Northern Ireland peace process. This is without recent precedent, issuing London with a démarche, a formal diplomatic reprimand. My goodness, this issue of the Northern Ireland Protocol is getting very, very nasty, isn't it? And of course, the President and the Prime Minister will meet, and what words are going to be exchanged, do you imagine?
Well, thank you. First of all, the Prime Minister and the President are meeting to launch a new Atlantic Charter, which is a big moment in US-UK relations. 80 years ago, Churchill and Roosevelt launched the Atlantic Charter about the recovery of the world after World War II. Today, Boris Johnson and President Biden will be launching a new Atlantic Charter on how we recover from the pandemic, working together on this pandemic, future pandemic, global trade rules, defense and security, climate change, and so on. So the overall atmosphere between the UK and the US is very strong and positive. We absolutely agree with the United States on the importance of the Good Friday Agreement. The UK is obviously a major party to the Good Friday Agreement. The US is a guarantor of the Good Friday Agreement. We totally agree on the importance of preserving peace in Northern Ireland, and that is exactly why we are seeking a more pragmatic interpretation of the protocol to make sure that goods can continue to flow reasonably between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. That's what it's all about.
Why do the Americans feel they need to issue this démarche then, if it's so unprecedented? Because clearly they don't feel like the British government is trying to get there. I mean, why do you think they're issuing this démarche?
Well, the important thing here is the attention being given by the US, the welcome attention to the Good Friday Agreement and to preserving peace in Northern Ireland. I would say to you that moving anything from sausages through to medicines, moving medicines from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, that there's no threat to anybody's health or safety in the European Union from doing that. The movement of pets between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, for example, there is nothing there that ought to threaten the European Union.
So but is it just a bit of show from the Americans then? Is it just a bit of show to say, you know, this is the power we wield on this stage, and we're not going to be told by Boris Johnson, Joe Biden's not going to be told by Boris Johnson the situation? Well, it's the idea that they are issuing this unprecedented international symbol of rebuke, usually, as our political correspondent pointed out to us earlier, usually used for foes, not used for allies. This démarche, it feels like quite a significant moment.
Well, look at what the US is saying overall. Look at what, for example, Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor, said only yesterday in relation to this. The most important thing for the US, one has to understand the Good Friday Agreement is very, very important for the United States as well. It was helped to be negotiated by Senator George Mitchell, who's a rough contemporary of Joe Biden, a fellow Democratic senator at the time. The US has got a big stake in the Good Friday Agreement. The most important thing here for us and for the United States is preserving the peace, preserving the Good Friday Agreement and that peace process. 25 years ago, I went to Northern Ireland in 1994 during a very short-lived ceasefire. We've got to recognise, and the United States, I think, definitely recognises how fragile the peace can be in Northern Ireland.
Which is why
needs to work
Which is why you didn't want checks on a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. And we have this situation now where we have a border between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. I mean, Greg Hands, you were a Remainer. You knew that this was going to be a problem. You know, the EU knew this was going to be a problem. How do we fix it?
Well, the way to fix it is to talk, and we are talking with the European Union. We had the Joint Committee yesterday. We didn't get a breakthrough, but the talks didn't break down. We need a more pragmatic approach from Brussels and the European Union in interpretation of the rules. We've sent some very serious, detailed, well-thought-through proposals to Brussels as to how that might be. But it just needs everybody to take a step back and think, actually, as the United States is doing, the importance of the Good Friday Agreement, the importance of the peace process.
This was an agreement that, this wasn't an agreement that was imposed on us. This was an agreement that we were part of the negotiations for. We were told at the general election, Boris Johnson said this was an oven-ready deal. You know, we were told that this was all set, done and ready to go. And now, 2 years after the general election, it is by no means an oven-ready deal. There are all sorts of issues with it, where we have a significant partner who we want a separate trade deal with, saying that ain't going to happen until this is resolved.
Well, look, in trade, it's A, it's a question of the rules, and B, it's always a question of the interpretation of the rules. Inspections, for example, when it comes to trade, you don't inspect everything. You have a risk-based approach.
The EU, we knew, had an issue with chilled meat, sausages coming from a third party. As soon as we made ourselves a third party, that was going to be an issue.
Well, it's about interpretation of the rules. The EU, there needs to be a recognition, for example, that the port of Larne is not the same as the port of Rotterdam. You do need to have, when it comes to trade, a pragmatic interpretation of the rules, particularly, if I may say,
you mean
when there's something which
rules.
is a...
When you say interpretation of the rules, you mean bending them, don't you?
No, I'm not. I'm talking about the level and the volume and the frequency of inspections. For example, what kind of products are you actually inspecting?
So one of the things, though, but as Susanna said, Greg Hands, one of the things that at the general election, in the run-up to the general election, and also when it came to Brexit, was we were told there would be no checks with products going into Northern Ireland. We can remind you of some of the things that Boris Johnson said. This is what he said regarding this.
And you will absolutely not have. And if somebody asked you to do that, tell them to ring up the Prime Minister, and I will direct them to throw that form in the bin.
It's not feasible.
You're not going. There will be no forms, no checks, no barriers of any kind. You will have unfettered access.
No forms, no checks, no barriers. That was November 2019. Was he lying?
Well, I haven't seen that entire clip, but don't forget, there is a difference.
You heard it. Whether you could see it or not, you could hear what he was saying.
OK, well, allow me to answer. There is a difference between
trade...
Let me answer. There is a difference between trade from Great Britain to Northern Ireland compared to from Northern Ireland to Great Britain. The unfettered access may well be, I can't see the whole clip, may well be referring to trade from Northern Ireland to Great Britain. It's very important to understand that key distinction. What we're asking for here, though, is what is the bigger prize here? The bigger prize is the Good Friday Agreement and the peace process, making sure that the rules, the interpretation of the rules, is done pragmatically to preserve the peace in Northern Ireland. There's no threat to health in the European Union from pharmaceuticals, medicines, I mean, rather the opposite. There's the free flow of medicines from Great Britain to Northern Ireland presents no health threat to the European Union. So what we need is an approach, a sensible approach to how the protocol actually works on the ground, how it works in a small port like Larne, how it works for SMEs looking to move their goods across, how it works for UK supermarkets.
Are we going to continue with an extension of the grace period? Because, of course, it runs out at the end of June. We're accused of, if we extend that, we're accused of breaking international law. I mean, you know, I go back to the fact that you were never in favour of Brexit. You knew that these problems are on the horizon. Is this a problem that can be fixed without constantly telling the EU that it was their fault, despite the fact we voted for Brexit?
Yes, it can be, if we look at the proposals that the United Kingdom has sent to Brussels as a way of looking at how, with a degree of flexibility and pragmatism, we can minimise the impact here on the lives of people and businesses in Northern Ireland. That is the ultimate objective, is actually thinking about the lives of consumers, businesses in Northern Ireland, preserving the peace. That if you like, is our starting point. And that is why we've sent the proposals to Brussels that we've had, and why we had those discussions yesterday between Lord Frost and Madam Shephard.
Yeah. We're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid, but we appreciate your time. That's Trade Minister Greg Hands. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.